Commend Kermit and his team. I thought they came out and they delivered the first punch. And bless you, whoever that is back there. They delivered the first punch and obviously had us back on our heels and in this game. I thought they brought the energy. I thought they brought the effort, and I thought their experience showed and our inexperience showed. But we know with the way we play the game, you can be down 10, 11, no matter what it was at halftime. We didn't do a good job defensively on the screen and roll, and it seemed like they were scoring with the big fella every single time. And I thought we adjusted in the second half, and that allowed us to get back in the game. And even as we cut into the lead with the ball, 49-43, I thought we had some momentum going. And then I thought, again, what kicked in was our inexperience of not coming down and executing. But let's give them credit. They're featured guys, Davis and Tyree. They did the things they're supposed to do, and they got some help from other guys. So congratulations to them. But I don't know if it was a hangover effect that we had, but I didn't see us clicking on cylinders. The guys that we have that normally score for us, they didn't score, and maybe their defense had a lot to do with that.
Questions? Mike, the 4-game losing streak, I know that's uncommon to you. How tough is that? What do you think's been going on, and what do you got to do to get back to winning?
Well, we got to win. I think the confidence has been shattered. I think the confidence has been kind of shattered. Obviously, we lost some tough losses at home, and then of course you play against an outstanding Tennessee team, and now you're having to come and play against a surging Ole Miss team that's playing well. You want to come in and you got to play well. You got to shoot the ball well on the road. We didn't shoot the ball well, and so that's. But I think confidence has a lot to do with that as well.
With a young team, how do you get that confidence going again?
We just got to keep working. I think you got to point out the positive and try to not only point out the things that we can get better at. We've got to play better for longer periods of time, I think. And then when we get to that, learning how to win, I think that's one of the difficult things with the young basketball team. But that's the hurdle we got to get over. We got to get to the point where we learn how to win. Take advantage of momentum. Take advantage of the things that we have. We had some of their guys in foul trouble. I didn't think we fully took advantage of that.
Mike, Daniel Gafford never really got going tonight. Did you think that was him, or did you think it was mostly what Ole Miss was doing on defense? Just what did you think about his
combination? I think it was a combination. I think Dan's got to play better than that.
You guys weren't doing a good job of getting him the ball, or was he not
combination
to get the ball?
It was a combination. Like I said, it was a combination of him putting himself in position, and then of course we've had this take place all year long where people are doubling up on him. So the recipients, they got to be able to finish on the offside. And we had some plays where guys were cut to the hole and they couldn't finish. And I can remember one when Isaiah cut down to the lane and he caught it and he bobbled it, and it turned into a big play for them. As opposed to catching it, defense sucks in, and somebody's going to be open. So sometimes it's going to be a decoy. But I thought the rhythm of the game, the tempo was to their likings, to Ole Miss's liking.
You brought up the screen and roll game they were using. Were they doing things down low that maybe you hadn't seen from them?
No, we didn't do a good job. You could see it. We snuffed it off in the second half. I think you got to make adjustments. Our teams have always been good at that, and so we're learning how to be good at it. How about that?
Mike, I think you started Gabe in the second half for Reggie. I think that was a career high for Gabe. What did you think of his game?
I thought there was some positives that came out of this game. I thought Reggie was Gabe was one of those guys. He fixes things on defense, charges, touches balls, rebound. His turnovers came because he was trying to get the ball in the dam, and so that's something that we got to continue to get better at. But I thought he brought good energy. Keyshawn Embry.
Welcome in. It's our Monday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's a very special edition as we want to give honor to a guy that's done a lot for myself and many of African Americans across the country, all ages. Martin Luther King. It's his birthday, and we're gonna do it the right way. So throughout the show, we're gonna be playing tidbits of the I Have a Dream speech, and we're gonna finish it up with the mountaintop. Something I think as a kid, Demetrius, my mother grew up in that era. My mother, father, my uncles, aunts, and it was a time I think a lot of change happened into the black culture and also in the United States of America. Martin Luther King will forever be known as the GOAT in my book. What say you when you have feelings and when a day like this happens, a very special day in the African American race? What does this day mean to you in so many words?
It's definitely important. I feel like it's the reason we have the opportunity to sit here and cover the University of Arkansas. So I give a lot of credit due to the movement and the impact he had, not only, like you said, for the African American culture, but the United States and the entire world.
It has now come out, been confirmed, John Scott Jr., Arkansas defensive line coach, will be moving on to Columbia, South Carolina, and the University of South Carolina Gamecocks to assume their defensive line coaching position. Also, Friday, Jalen Catalon, four-star safety out of Mansfield, Texas Legacy High School. He decided to commit to the University of Arkansas, and Chad Morris and that program over the likes of Texas, TCU, and the Oklahoma Sooners were the finalists for his signature. But back to John Scott. Big time loss if you're Chad Morris, Demetrius. I know Coach Scott's only been here 2 years, but the impact that he's had, obviously, with an Armand Watts comes to mind. I think, when you look at Armand, that might not have been possible had it not been for a guy that believed in him like a coach like John Scott. What will this be? How big of a loss will this be for Coach Morris and that defensive staff, and Coach Chavis going forward, not only for next year, but in the recruiting and years on down the road?
I think it's huge. I think he was one of those character guys that had a lot of connection, especially with that South Carolina, Clemson, Georgia, Alabama area. So that's really going to be a big hit for us right now.
When the news initially came out over the weekend, it was something that was new to me. So I did some research and was able to confirm it early this morning that he will be named the defensive line coach at South Carolina University for Will Muschamp and his staff. They're getting a good one. I can say that. Not only is he a great coach, but he's a great man. And I can see that the young men that he coached and that he was around in the 2 years that he was here had high respect for Coach John Scott. And I knew it from when Brett Bielema brought him in 2 years ago to be the defensive line coach. As coming from the NFL, I do know that John had a chance to go on. I know he was supposed to get an interview this coming Friday with the Cleveland Browns. I know they had high interest in him and making him their defensive line coach. And multiple other schools throughout college football made a push. And I will say it, John Scott did not go out and seek this defensive line job. It just comes down to, when you think about it, he's from the state of South Carolina, born and raised. Dad's 5 hours away from Columbia, South Carolina. Brothers, I believe, are 2 hours or so. Then he has, his kids are not too far away. One's a senior. Another, his daughter, is going to be a sophomore, and they live in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it was a situation of just, being in a place where timing's everything in the coaching business. It's all about timing, and everything, came to pass. Now, he does not have any prior connections on the staff with anyone on the SC staff. John Scott got this job based on his body of work and what he's been able to do with young guys that he's been able to come in contact with at the collegiate level and the developmental process. I think we would all agree that probably the biggest or the most solid position on the football field probably was the defensive line. I would have to say. So, congratulations to John Scott, Will Muschamp, getting a good one. I'm hearing rumors that a possible Brady Hoke is a possible replacement for John Scott. But me personally, Demetrius, I'm going to say it has to be more minority. When I look on that Arkansas staff, and I'm just keeping it real. I mean, let's keep it real. That's what we do here on OTH. Let's keep it real. But you're dealing with SEC families. Most families are African American in the South the last time I checked. You have to have some type of diversity on your staff. You look at these staffs throughout the SEC, and we're at the stadiums, Demetrius. We're on the sidelines. We see the amount of minorities that they have on the staff. That's a big factor, whether you want to like it or not, whether you want me to say it or not. It's point blank, period, truth. It has to be done, and I'm not getting on here saying that Coach that Chad's making it a point not to. I'm just saying, if you want to be one of the prominent programs and really, really get in and recruit these kids at a high level, I've heard it and I hear it in recruiting. I speak with kids multiple times throughout the year, throughout the week, and that's one of the things that really sticks out to mom and dad. You down there in Georgia recruiting that kid. That diversity is something that they really look at because it means a lot, and especially in today's society. So, Demetrius, where are you at with that? That's just my, that's my thought on it. And like I said, it may not come across to the liking of other people, but it's my honest opinion, and that's all I want to give on this show. I mean, I think that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head. I think it's a critical component for a coaching staff to have those African American coaches on the staff, not only for recruiting purposes, but I think just for relationships within the program. There's going to be certain situations that only they kind of know how to deal with, just coming from similar backgrounds and similar environments from the type of kids that you have to have playing in the SEC. We can call it what it is, but you're going to get those kids just from those poverty areas that you have to have guys that have been in their shoes, have walked that walk, have to struggle the way they have. I think it's really important. I think it's starting to become aware that it's needed to be successful in these type of programs.
Well, we know a guy that made a speech, and he made it aware to us years ago with I Have a Dream, Martin Luther King. This is part one of part two of this speech that we're going to play throughout the show for you, but we want to take you back in time and give a tribute to Dr. MLK himself. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Back in a bit.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted.
Welcome back. It's On the Hill, Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's our Monday edition. If you want to chime in and talk with us on the Hill, you can do so about any topic. Where are you at with with John Scott moving on to South Carolina to be their D-line coach? Is it a big loss for Arkansas? What can Arkansas do to fill that spot? And do you feel the same way? Do you want to fill it with a minority coach? Is that something that you as a fan base and as one of our viewers and listeners, do you feel like Arkansas has to, have that, be something that they have to have in their program? Tell us honestly what you think. It's no right or wrong here on the Hill, but I don't know. I don't know. If it's Brady Hoke, former head coach for the Michigan Wolverines, the one thing I do know about Brady is he can recruit. He's a top-notch recruiter, as evidenced by the talent that he was able to leave prior to Jim Harbaugh coming in. The cupboard there at Michigan was not bare by any means. Brady had a couple of very successful seasons. I think it just at a situation where Brady and the powers that be kind of needed to part ways. I think that's where we were at with Coach Hope, but. That's going to be one of the positions. It'll be the $1 million question. Who will the defensive line coach at Arkansas be? I know that's Demetrius myself. I know myself for one. I'm going to be following it daylight to dawn and try to come up with some of the candidates, as that's going to be a search. And I know here in the next 48 to 72 hours, they'll be in high regard. But I think Arkansas. Maybe John Chavis, maybe Coach Cooper may know of some names that they might want to go out and get. I know Coach Price, former defensive line coach there at Texas A&M, maybe that might be a guy that Coach John Chavis might want to talk to. I'm real curious to see who this hire is going to be, because I think this is going to be really, really big, Demetrius, for recruiting purposes going forward for Chad Morris. Who's going to be that defensive line coach? But I just, from where I sit, Demetrius, and I don't want to sound, like a bitter, somebody that's throwing bitterness, but I think it has to be, a minority coach. I think that's the way you have to go with it being, with the way things are going in the South. I mean, what do you think? Is it that, or just hire the best man for the job? In your opinion, Demetrius, is it the most qualified, then that's who you go get?
Yeah, I would say most qualified, but if you can find a person of color that's qualified, I think it would help your stock as a whole, because some things, it's not always about the football aspect of it, but what you can sell behind the football program, if that makes sense. Being a lot of those kids, you're going to have to sell. Not sell. You're going to have to buy the mother. You're going to have to sell the program to the mother, and it's going to be hard to do that. It just is. I don't really know the right words, and I don't want to misquote anything or say anything the wrong way, but I just think it's really important to have that just diversity on the staff as a whole, just with the type of kids you're going to go get. I think it's very important to have diversity. It just adds a different chemistry to the team.
Talking about chemistry to the team, has to be some good chemistry for the future going forward, Demetrius, when you flip and talk recruiting, as Jalen Catalon, 4-star safety from Mansfield High School. Legacy High School in Mansfield, Texas, suburb of Dallas-Fort Worth area. When you get three kids, as Chad was able to get Jalen, his two teammates, Enoch Jackson and also Tarian Carter, that has to, bode well. And also, too, when Jalen was one of the top players in the state of Texas, Demetrius, and when you're able to go in there and beat the likes of an OU and a Texas, two programs that are, OU's been to multiple playoff appearances in the first 5 years. And, I mean, it's a very high thought-of program. Texas is obviously trending up under Tom Herman here over the last 2 years. And this year, I know this upcoming year, they expect to be really, really good. But when you beat programs out like, for a guy like this who could have gone to those two, you're a 2-10 program. That has to send shockwaves throughout the state of Texas to a lot of other high-quality recruits that Coach Morrison's staff may try to recruit when it comes to Texas, OU, Baylor, Texas Tech, Texas A&M. Has to mean something, don't you think, Demetrius?
It does, like Coach Morris says again. At the end of the day, black or white, I think it's still all about relationships. So I think if you still continue to make those relationships that benefit the University of Arkansas and build those relationships where you can create those pipelines and people know what type of product they get when they're coming to the University of Arkansas, I think that's going to speak for itself.
It all remains to be seen. A lot took place here over the last 72 hours or so with Razorback men's football, as we stated. For those that have just tuned in to our show here on OTH, John Scott Jr., Arkansas defensive line coach, will be leaving his post in Fayetteville to move south and head to Columbia, South Carolina, and be with Will Muschamp and that staff to take their defensive line position. Also, too, over the weekend, Jalen Catalon, 4-star safety out of Mansfield, Texas Legacy High School, has chosen to play his college football. Also, too, I believe Jalen will be playing a little baseball for Dave Van Horn. Also, too, as he's a highly thought of baseball player, high school baseball player in the state of Texas. I want to make a note also, too, Mike Anderson and his ball club failed 1-4 in the SEC, 10-7 on the year, as they traveled to Oxford, Mississippi this past weekend, and was, one of the things I hate to say, but the effort in Saturday's game, Demetrius, when I watched it, it was not of a vibe that made you feel good, and I don't think that that's so much coaching. I think that at some point you can use youth. But this basketball team is kind of in the same boat that this football team was. Sometimes you got to tighten your shoes a little bit better and give a little bit better effort. I think that they play hard, but there's times on Saturday that I didn't think there was a full 100% effort to close out on three-pointers, and it's starting to be a recurring thing when a team offensively and your own defense shoots a high percentage of three-pointers. That's an effort thing. That's not closing out hard. That's not rotating, and communication is off. And I think this team's confidence, you can see it. It is, highly shattered. They've been hit in the SEC by some of the big boys, and not used to understanding SEC balls. Kind of being the high school scene, you get away with things. You've been the big dog, and now you go back to being, that seventh grader or that freshman in high school. And I think that's what this is. But Demetrius, this team needs a win. This team needs a win really, really badly, don't you think?
I do. I think they greatly need a win. But the thing about it is, I think for the first time in Mike Anderson's tenure here at Arkansas, I think these guys are starting not to buy into his scheme of things. When I look back at the guys that decided to leave early, and then I look at the guys that transferred out, including guys like Day, and the guy that left in the middle of this year due to playing time, I just kind of feel like guys are not really, they don't have that same vibe. I can even look at Daniel Gafford's body language and kind of tell he doesn't have that same spirit that he had last year. And I kind of feel, not to say they need a new hire, but I kind of think he needs to maybe readjust some things and adapt to what these guys have and what their ability is. I'm just starting to really feel that style of play that he's really trying to force these younger guys to play, I don't really think it fits their skill set. I think due to him missing some pieces, he's going to have to change, or they're going to continue to have the result that they've gotten thus far in SEC play. I just feel like guys really don't want to play this type of system.
I think when you look at this, and it came out today, SEC schools, want to make a note also for all fans listening of schools. SEC came out. Tennessee's the new #1 team in all of college basketball, and which is an accomplishment. This is the same team that was ranked 13th, picked 13th last year to finish in the SEC. The same team came back. This is the same team that was picked 13th that finished, I believe, tied for the SEC championship last season. Went to the SEC tournament championship, was beaten by Kentucky, made a deep run. I believe went to the Elite Eight in last year's tournament. Also, too, Kentucky came in at number 8, Auburn 16, Ole Miss number 20, Mississippi State 22, and LSU 25. And the reason I call that out is because Arkansas still has yet number 8 Kentucky, number 16 Auburn. You have number 22 Mississippi State. You're going to play number 20 Ole Miss again here in Fayetteville. And you have here in less than about 10 or so days, you're traveling to Baton Rouge to take on number 25 LSU. So to combat that, you're going to be at number 14 ranked Texas Tech this coming weekend in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. This team, I just feel like, with the youth, they're at an adverse moment. I don't think it's so much buy-in, but I think it's a lot of not recognizing that you have a big guy, and he could be your run stopper. When teams make long runs on you, you got a guy that if you want to, you can go down there and throw it down low and start to stop the bleeding. Give it to Daniel Gafford. Daniel had 6 shot attempts. I know in 2 losses over this year out of 7 losses. Daniel has taken 10 shots in 2 losses, and he's your lottery pick. He's a future lottery pick. He's the guy that leads the SEC in field goal percentage, in top 3 in all categories. But yet still, this basketball team continues to shoot over 20-plus three-pointers. That's not a recipe for winning for this basketball team. This basketball team is going to have to be dribble drive, get the ball into Daniel Gafford, collapse the double team, and start making shots a lot more open. Confidence has to come up because every shot seems to be contested, but on the other end, there's no contesting. And I think these guys, being so young, are letting their offense dictate to them how they play the rest of the game defensively, and that just has to be reversed. They're not creating turnovers. I just didn't feel good about Saturday's game. Didn't feel good about the body language that I was seeing throughout that basketball team. Just they need a win, and they need it bad. And what better way to get it than a Missouri team under Cuonzo Martin that's coming in? They're struggling just as well. I think they're coming in also 2-1-4. So, both these teams need it bad for their programs. They need this upcoming ball game. Really in a big way. But we're going to step away. We caught up, and I think we're going to have the mountaintop speech. We're just going to go to a little Armand Watts. Armand, we want to talk about Armand when we come back because the kid had a great senior bowl ball game. And we want to talk about Armand Watts and his prospects, what we think he might end up in the NFL draft. That'll all take place in a moment. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Oh.
Bub's got beats.
Player who came up with the football. Touchdown, Arkansas.
Going there, here you can see the inside movement, and he
Watts is the team leader in sacks. That's his 7th. You're going to see Watts here working a double team, and this is a problem that we saw against Alabama with Quinn Williams on the inside. There's 3 LSU defensive linemen there for 2 inferior defensive linemen. You got to be able to block these guys on the interior.
And nobody's done it better than you. Nobody's had a bigger impact on all minorities and African Americans and myself for sure. You were a big impact on me, Mr. Martin Luther King. So thank you for all you did to get me to where I am today. I want to say thank you. But now back to Armand Watts. Big time performance this weekend in the Senior Bowl. Brian Wallace, also Randy Ramsey. Those guys showed up and those guys showed out. I think they all 3 left on quite a few scouts' minds, don't you think, Demetrius?
I do, and I think we can kind of tie that back into the thing with John Scott. I mean, a lot of that has to do with those guys working with John Scott. You look at Rambo, a defensive end, but had a lot of time working with Coach Scott. And then, like you said, mentioned in the earlier segment, just the hands-on impact Armand had just working with John Scott. We know he came from that NFL level, and I know he had a lot to really teach these guys because that's the level that they really were projected to go.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure he gave those guys a lot of detailed insight on what it takes to get to the NFL level, and I think that he has a lot of credit due to their success.
And I think, that helps, a program like Arkansas, who maybe has not had a lot of success, in the SEC and on the field, but, it speaks to maybe the development is better than the results that they're getting on the field, is what it tells me. When a guy like Armand Watts, and like I said, all credit goes to John Scott Jr., for the development of Randy and Armand. I mean, this guy put in 2 years, and where he took those guys in 2 years to where they were prior to John, coming to Fayetteville is just, you can't put into words the development and the technique and, how he coached, how he coached those 2 up. Now, I know Randy didn't have the senior year stat-wise that he, felt that he should have had, but you can tell when you go to stuff like that, things that you were taught, prepare you for the next level. Because John was teaching these, he was teaching those guys NFL type of, drills to prepare them for when they were ready for the combines. They would have already had 2, 3, if you could have kept him 3 or 4 years, those types of years of all those development. But, I agree with you, Demetrius. It's a sole credit to the job that John Scott and Steve Caldwell. Don't take much away from Steve Caldwell. This is a guy that's widely known for developing defensive tackles, nose guards, defensive ends. He knows how to coach those guys up. But, man, this is the biggest hire, I believe, and I'll go back to it, Demetrius. To me, this may be the biggest hire in the Chad Morris era to this point, because it's all about being able to continue to stay dirty and competitive in the SEC, and you have to do that on both the offensive and defensive line. So what coach? I think he's going to have to get a coach that has ties. I feel minority, but if not, it better be one of the elite defensive line coaches in all of college football, and one of the, if you can't get him from the collegiate ranks, you want him to be one of the home run hires coming down from the professional ranks, if that could be possible.
Agree 100%. They're definitely going to have to go get a guy that either has a name or has the reputation, like you said, for putting those type of guys in the NFL and developing those guys, because your name matters in the SEC, because guys will strictly come to your program just off your turnaround rate of entering guys in the NFL at that particular position that they're interested in and being recruited by. So again, I think you're right. This is probably Chad Morris's biggest hire thus far. I still go back to the defensive coordinator. I definitely still have to go to the defensive coordinator hire. That was probably still his biggest, but this is definitely, I think, if not equal, right there up there with one of the biggest decisions that's totally going to impact the future of Chad Moore's success here at Arkansas.
Because you got to think about it. You're, like I said, to be sure, you're coaching in the South. If you don't think these coaches aren't going to look at your staff and try to use that against you in recruiting, And you don't think that as a fan base, then you're really not into the real world. You have checked out. You checked out years ago. I mean, it's a dog-eat-dog world in the SEC, and in particular on those recruiting streets. I talk to too many kids, and I know what's going on. We'll never divulge what's going on, but if you don't think there's a lot of poor-mouthing amongst these coaches toward other programs, so you're horribly mistaken. But, I just think that you got to go more diverse. I mean, diversity matters in the SEC. You look at these teams that recruit at a high level in the SEC, and there's a direct correlation to diversity that they have within their athletic program, within their football program. Whichever program they're recruiting to, they have the diversity. In football, you have to have it. It's just imperative. There's no way around it. You have to have it. You're dealing with 85 scholarship players. There's going to be a vast majority of those players that are going to be African American, probably over 60% of that roster. You have to have those types of coaches that can really relate to these kids and have walked in those kids' shoes, Demetrius, have been in those neighborhoods and can relate to maybe sometimes being in a house where you're on food stamps or you're having to duck and dodge bullets just to get across the street to head to school. You have to have that type of stuff. It's really important. You're in the SEC. You're not up north. You're in the SEC, and that matters. I have a Southern mom, and she's all about her Southern ties. Grew up in Arkansas, grandmother out of Mississippi, and she's all about that Southern those Southern ties. So, Arkansas, you better get in the game. If you want to get in the game, you better get in the game. But and I'm not saying that Chad, because I think Chad Morris is going to do a bang-up job and really take this program to the elite level that maybe it's never seen since the Frank Broyles era. I do think Chad is the guy for the position. But we're going to step away, get a real quick break, and wrap this thing up as we're going to be making our way up to Arkansas availability with head coach Mike Anderson, as he's going to talk a little bit about what happened in Oxford, and he's going to preview with us here in about an hour or so, preview this upcoming home game that they have hosting the Missouri Tigers in Bud Walton Arena on Wednesday. But let's step away, get a real quick break, and let's come back and finish this thing up. It's MLK on Monday. It's on the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.
America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
I am happy to join.
Welcome back. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins, Sports Talk Radio. What a tribute. That mountaintop speech just every time, Demetrius. I understand it, as my mother made it clear growing up, that I think was one of the last speeches, if not the last speech that Martin Luther King ever made public. You know, it was one that, like I said, it will be forever synonymous in my home and many homes. We want to say happy birthday, Dr. Martin Luther King. Like I said, thanks for all you've done for us, us as a people. Demetrius, we would not have been here without some of the burdens that Dr. King and many more of our ancestors had to burden for us. Just me to be able to sit here in this chair and do what I do. Priceless, speechless, that I could never repay Dr. King. But like I said, that's why this day means so much. It's so special to me. I look forward to this each and every year. But you know what we're going to start doing? We're going to start having this day off. This will be the last day that we work on MLK Day. I'm the boss. I'm going to have to get a penalty. Demetrius write a grievance on me, something like that. We'll do it. We'll do a penalty, but, your parting words as we wrap today's show up. It was more of a day to give thanks to Dr. King, but your parting words for what Dr. King means to you. I know, growing up you had to hear a lot about Dr. King and get on videos and read books. But, what's the importance of Martin Luther King in Demetrius's life going forward?
Just to keep it short and sweet, he's just a sign of hope. When you look back on history of those important figures, there's not too many figures, especially African-American figures, that they let go through time like they have Martin Luther King. Right. So I think it's a beacon of hope that there are people of color that are held to high prestige, and we have a standard that we need to live up to. We have people that have died for us to progress as a people. And we need to be held to accountability for our own actions, for the people that have put themselves in position to help us progress. I think it's really important for the younger generation to really pay homage to those people and really continue to represent those figures, like I said, that have died and bled for us to be where we are and be able to do some of the things that we're able to do in time.
Well, that's going to wrap up today's show. I want to give a thank you to our sponsors, Lindsay & Associates, with an office location in Rogers, an office location also too in Fayetteville. The Baymont Hotel, located at 735 South Shiloh Drive in Locomotion, just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. Until tomorrow, also want to say a happy birthday once again to Dr. Martin Luther King. Make sure you do something positive for someone, because that's what it's all about, reaching out and helping someone else come up. We're going to make our way now over to Coach Anderson. We're going to let Coach Anderson talk about post Ole Miss, and also too, we'll have audio from players and Coach Anderson tomorrow when we come back. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins. Also, too, make a note, Arkansas's women will be playing tonight on ESPN as they travel to Knoxville, Tennessee to take on the Tennessee Vols. You can catch them on ESPN at 6 p.m. Until then, it's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.